The Board of Trustees of the Lamar Consolidated Independent School District is called to order at 6:30 p.m. This is the regular monthly board meeting being held on March 22nd, 2022. We have a quorum with all members present. Please join me in a moment of silence to observe as you feel appropriate. Okay, please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance and then the pledge to the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Oh, it says March. Oh, okay. Do I need to correct that? Okay. I apologize. I said March 22nd. Today is April the 19th. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. All right. Y'all can be seated, except for those that don't have a choice in the back. So, Dr. Nivens, are there any recognitions or awards?
Yes, ma'am, Madam President. Quite a few recognitions. I'm so proud looking at all these young people in the audience and their parents. But I will turn it over to Ms. Cole-Hamilton.
Thank you. Good evening, Board of Trustees, Dr. Nivens, and our community. So Lamar CISD has a young scholar moving forward as a National Merit finalist. Jeremy Tran is a senior at Foster High School, and Jeremy has ambitions of attending Texas A&M for engineering in the fall, although he has also been auto-admitted to UT Austin and is waiting to hear back from UC Berkeley and MIT. We are extremely proud of all Jeremy's hard work and wish him the very best going forward as a finalist in the 2022 competition for National Merit Scholarships. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in recognizing and congratulating Jeremy Tran.
All right.
Jeremy, you can shake the board members' hands. Jeremy is joined this evening by his father, Tao Tran, and the campus college and career facilitator, Ms. Brittany Rhodes.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. Do we want to just stay up there for pictures? We're going to stand in, you know what I mean? Okay. Can we get
We can do a group photo with Jeremy. There you go. Got it? That's with Dad's camera. That's a really important one. We got it. Okay, cool. Thank you so much. Trustees, I'm going to ask you to remain standing because we're about to have a parade of amazing students come through, so you may remain standing. Next, we're going to recognize some of our outstanding fine arts students. So thousands of students, musicians from across Texas, from across Texas regions and conferences auditioned through multiple levels of competition and cuts to become the elite in their respective vocal and instrumental fields. 10 Lamar CISD high school musicians qualified for the 2022 Texas Music Educators Association All-State Competition, distinguishing them in the top 3% of all high school musicians in the state of Texas. These students here tonight performed in the All-State bands, choirs, and orchestras in San Antonio last February, and we're going to acknowledge them here this evening. I will announce the student, and we'd like to invite the students' parents and teachers to please stand when the name is called. Students, you may come forward when your name is called. Joining us from George Ranch High School is sophomore Crow Waters. Crow's parents attending tonight are Andrew Waters. Crow was a soprano in the All-State Treble Choir, and her choir director is Mr. Charles Williams. Also from George Ranch is senior Hannah Rice. Hannah is a daughter of Lori and David Rice, and this is her second time to be an All-State musician. She was a soprano in the All-State Treble Choir. She plans to attend the University of Houston and major in music education, and her choir director is also Mr. Charles Williams. Joining us from Fulshire High School is Oscar Melesio Patino. Oscar is a junior and was a trombonist in the 5A All-State Symphonic Band. Oscar's parents are Rocio Patino and Manuel Mesio. Oscar's band director is Mr. Andrew Lee. Joining us from Lamar Consolidated High School is Adrian Sichuan. Adrian is a junior and played French horn in the 5A All-State Sinfonetta Orchestra. This is his second time to be a TMEA All-State musician. Adrian's parents are Eleanor and Reggie Sichuan, and his band director is Chris Mosley. Joining us from Terry High School is senior Carlos Hueso. His parents attending tonight is Glendy Navarro. Carlos was a member of the Texas All-State Orchestra, and this is his second time to be an All-State musician. Carlos plans to attend Texas State University and major in music performance. His band director is Tim Taylor. Joining us from Foster High School is senior Abigail Opuko. Her parents are Ya and Lydia Opuko. Abigail was a two-time alto in the All-State Treble Choir. Her college is undecided, but she plans to major in economics and go pre-med. In addition to her All-State achievements, Abigail was nominated for her supporting role in the 2022 Tommy Tune Awards for her role in Foster High School's production of The Wiz. Her choir director is Jason Carson. Joining us from Foster High School is senior Rafael Gonzavalo. His parents are Rodolfo and Faith Gonzavalo, and Rafael was a tenor in the All-State Mixed Choir. He plans to attend the University of St. Thomas and major in music education. In addition to his All-State achievement, Rafael was a 2021 Outstanding Soloist at the UIL Texas State Solo and Ensemble Contest. His choir director is also Jason Carson. And again, we get to congratulate this senior from Foster High School, Mr. Jeremy Tran. Jeremy's parents are Tao and Tuan Tran. Jeremy played the euphonium in the 5A All-State Symphonic Band. He plans to attend Texas A&M University and major in genetic engineering, and his band director is Eric Saunier. Also from Foster High School is senior Zamar Soto. Zamar is a senior percussionist and is a two-time All-State musician. His parents are Ernest and Veronica Soto. There we go. Was in the 5A State Symphonic Band. He plans to attend the Texas State University and major in sound recording technology. His band director is also Eric Saunier. And rounding out our musicians, also from Foster High School, is senior Zane Richter. Zane is a three-time TMA All-State musician. His parents are Carrie and Chip, and Zane was a percussionist in the 6A All-State Symphonic Band. He plans to attend Texas A&M University and major in pharmaceuticals. His band director is also Mr. Eric Saunier. All right. Let's see if we get a big group photo with all of our musicians and our board and superintendent. Students, you want to follow in front of the trustees? Oh, our band directors. Oh, yeah. Parents, please stand. Band directors. We're inviting our band directors to come to the front to join in the photo. Oh, and choir. Sorry, band and choir. It's a lot. We may need some of y'all to duck down and get on your knees. Did we get them all? Okay, thank you, students. Thank you, our directors. Thank you. All right, trustees, we're now going to recognize some of our students who participate in our CTE programs. I am proud to announce that we have some exciting recognitions from the CTE department tonight. Our CTE Career and Technology student organizations have been quite busy competing this last month, and we've got some really talented kiddos right here in Lamar CISD. First up, we're going to recognize our DECA. DECA is a CTSO associated with our business programs of study. This CTSO prepares emerging leaders and entrepreneurs to be college and career ready. Students from across the district competed at the state DECA competition, and we have students from 3 campuses who will compete at nationals in Atlanta at the end of April. Marie Day is a sophomore from Lamar Consolidated High School who is advancing in the competition of Principles of Business Management and Administration. She will be accompanied by her advisor, Ms. Tia Meadors. Ashley Baumgauner and Shaylin Bristol are both seniors at Foster High School. They will represent the district in the competitive event of sports and entertainment marketing. The DECA sponsor at Foster High School is Ms. Leanne Dawson. George Ranch High School has 10 students who have advanced to the National DECA competition at the end of April. Daniel Arakel, Dhruv Datta, and Isaac Lansky are all juniors and will compete in the Independent Business Plan competition. Sophia Frey, a senior, will represent the district by competing in the Business Services Marketing competition. Junior Suhair Khan will compete in Human Resources Management. Unique Magnigo and Ravji Monsioon will work to hopefully win the Financial Services TEMA decision-making competition. And in the Inspire Academy selection competition, we've got senior Mila McLean, who will compete against others from across the nation. And finally, Alexis Watts and Shelby Williams, who are both seniors, will hopefully bring home a blue ribbon in the Project Management State competition. Come on up, students. Oh, okay, sure. So now we're ready for our George Ranch kiddos to come on up. Oh, they're all working. Okay, gotcha. All righty. Okay, so in March, students from across the district competed at the State Skills USA competition. Skills USA is a nonprofit national education association that serves secondary students to prepare them for careers in trade, technical, and skilled service occupations. We would like to recognize the students who competed and placed in the top 3 at the Skills USA state competition in law enforcement, construction, and culinary. So we'll do law enforcement first. The building search team from Lamar Consolidated High School took home first place. This team consisted of seniors Clayton Campbell, Jacob Rodriguez, sophomore Bria Lawson, freshman Melanie Garcia. Also taking home first place were the students participating in felony traffic stops, senior Udezi Ogoazi and freshman Sophia Carry-On. And finally, in the Criminal Justice Quiz Bowl, that team placed second, and that team consisted of seniors Daisy Ogoazi and Karina Bandaru, juniors Philip Logan Rojales and Carlos Vasquez, sophomore Kendall Johnson, freshman Michaela Buchanan and Valerie Salas. We can't forget their fearless leader, Dr. Guess, who leads them as well. We can do a group photo. This is the Lamar team. All right, thank you, Lamar. All right, we're going to recognize the law students from George Ranch High School at this time. Ms. Claudia Urbina was recognized as the District 9 Skills USA District Advisor of the Year. Ms. Urbina goes above and beyond for her students, and it shows in their results. From George Ranch, in the opening and closing ceremony event, this team took home third place. Please join us in congratulating seniors Eileen Rodriguez, Catherine Reynolds, Chelsea Amika Onyue, and Megan Beagle Flanagan, along with juniors K-Love Delgado and Brandon Varan and sophomore Kathleen La. Favorite? Our last law student could not be with us this evening, but we're going to share her accolades. She's from Foster High School. It was her first time to compete at the State Skills USA competition for law enforcement. She's a junior. Her name is Gabrielle Douglas. She brought home third place in the job skills demonstration crime scene investigation event, and she was accompanied by her advisor, Mr. Donald Posadas. In construction, Mr. Ramon, the Skills USA construction advisor, put an outstanding team together to compete in the surveying event this year. The following students brought home third place from the state competition from Terry High School: senior Enrique Ariola and junior Lizette Franco, and from Lamar Consolidated High School, David Noyola. Thank you. Okay. And in the field of culinary, Avion Llamas is a junior from Terry High School who competed in the Culinary Arts Technical Test. Avion brought home 3rd place. Ms. Trudy Townsend is a Skills USA Culinary Advisor at Terry High School. Wonderful, thank you. Okay, let's celebrate FFA. FFA is a CTSO attached to our Ag, Food, and Natural Resources program of study. This program prepares its members for leadership and careers in science, business, and technology of agriculture. These students competed year-round in multiple competitions, and this year, Lamar Consolidated High School has had some top winners at the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, as well as the San Antonio Livestock Show and Rodeo. Eduardo Vasquez is a sophomore who was a division champion with his Seminole heifer at the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. Eduardo is here. Not here? Okay. The 24-foot lowboy trailer team brought home a blue ribbon from the San Antonio Livestock Show and Rodeo. Please help me congratulate seniors Cesar Perez and Grady Shoemaker, along with juniors Cameron Munoz, Colby Gay, Riley Broussard, Emma Reed, sophomore Eduardo Vasquez, Zach Holmes, and Gabriel Andrade, and 8th grader Jorge Hernandez. Mr. Kevin Parker leads this group of FFA members and has done a great job of growing our FFA chapter at LCHS. Would the parents of any of our CTE students please stand at this time? Thank you, kiddos. Madam President, this concludes our recognitions.
Well, let me turn that, thank you. Dr. Nivens, are there any introductions?
Yes, ma'am. We have a few introductions. I'll turn over to Mr. Bates.
All right, thank you, Dr. Williams. Madam President, Trustees. Tonight I'm presenting 2 employees for introduction to the Board of Trustees. And I'll begin with the Assistant Principal of Lamar Consolidated High School. Mr. Secondino Alameda is a proud graduate of University of Houston with a bachelor's degree in English. He received a master's degree in 2017 in administration and supervision from the University of Houston, Victoria. Mr. Alameda has 13 years of experience in education, including 9 years of teaching experience. And tonight he has with him, if you don't mind standing, he has with him his wife and his son.
All right. Oh, yeah.
I'll have them step forward to shake hands.
Or just, yes. Congratulations. Yes, yes.
Next, I have the Chief Operating Officer for Lamar Consolidated ISD, Mr. Gregory Buchanan. Mr. Buchanan has 20 years of experience working for school districts, including 12 years in leadership roles. Mr. Buchanan has 3 years of experience as an Assistant Director of Maintenance, 2 years as Director of Transportation, Maintenance, and Energy, and 3 years as a Chief Operations Officer. He also has 3 years as Chief Financial Officer and 1 year as a Project Manager. And I'd also like to add that Mr. Buchanan has also proudly served in our military as a section leader in the U.S. Armed Forces. And on behalf of LCISD, we would like to thank you for your service. Mr. Greg Buchanan, and he has with him his wife and his 2 twin daughters. You will please stand.
As Zach would say, and Greg. And Greg.
Madam President, that concludes our presentations on introductions.
Thank you. Okay, Mrs. Johnson, are there any public comments?
If you wish to address the board, you must fill out a card and submit it before the presiding officer calls the meeting to order. While speakers generally have 5 minutes to address the board, the presiding officer may establish an overall time limit for public comment and adjust the time allotted to each speaker when necessary to accommodate a large number of speakers. However, no speaker shall be given less than 1 minute. All of this is in compliance with HB 2840. Each speaker tonight will have 5 minutes. While the board values hearing from members of the public, trustees may not respond to comments as they are prohibited by law from discussing or deciding any subject that is not on the board's publicly noticed agenda. Speakers having complaints against individual district employees or trustees may only address the board after filing a complaint form and in the manner provided for in Board Policy DGBA, Employee Complaints, F&G, Student and Parent Complaints, GF, Public Complaints. The presiding officer or designee shall determine whether a speaker has filed a complaint according to policy. Any speaker who complains of an individual district employee or trustee during comment will be directed by the presiding officer to stop addressing the board and will refer the speaker to the appropriate complaint policy. Please state your name when you come forward. Our first speaker tonight is Sam Smith.
Good afternoon, board members and superintendent. My name is Sam Smith. I'm a parent advocate in the state of Texas. Several parents has been reaching out to me saying that at Wright Junior High, there are fights on campus every day. The students cannot get a quality education. Several students in the district is not getting accommodation for special education. We have reached out to the superintendent. We left a voicemail on your voicemail, sir. We never got a call back. It was a lady female who picked up who the voicemail picked up. So I'm asking you, please fix this issue to make sure no students not getting bullied at school, to make sure the students who required by special education getting accommodation each and every day. Thank you.
That is all, Madam President.
Thank you. Okay, are there any board member reports? Ms. Danziger, go ahead.
I had to get my little calendar out to remember.
Right?
So many wonderful events going on. Of course, many of us did get to go to the LCTA banquet just last week. It was a lovely affair at the Marriott Hotel, and they said over 700 people attended. Everyone looked like they had a very good time. And of course, congratulations to not just the winners, but to all the ones that were winners from their schools, because we know how hard the teachers have been working, and you wish you could just honor every single one of them. But they all seemed to have a very good time. And then I was able to finally catch the production of Eurydice, or the one-act play at Lamar High School, and I believe they're continuing their road to state this Friday. I think they're going, and if they win, they will be going to state for the one-act play, and I think this is the furthest that any one-act play has gone from Lamar High School ever. So congratulations to that drama department. And then I was invited to the senior serve at Lamar High School, and I was very impressed how well attended it was, and that the parents participated and the kids, and was turning that Lamar High School cafeteria into a fun place for a Sunday afternoon. And finally, I want to give a shout out to last Saturday night was the Lone Star Stomp, which is a fundraiser for the Fort Bend History Association for the Fort Bend Museum. And its theme was Friday Night Lights. So I reached out to Nikki Nelson and Ram Estrada and asked, could we get some kids to come and help make it seem like a Friday night? And we got cheerleaders. We had the blow-up Longhorn from George Ranch, which ended up being the focal point of the, because have you ever been to the George Ranch venue inside the arena? It was perfect. And we had the color guard, I think, from Terry High School. We had, I think, the choir, the honor choir sang the national anthem from George Ranch. And then Randall High School, which is their first year, their dance team has won many honors, and they came and performed for everyone at the event. So our kids were well represented, our school was well represented, and it just made me feel good. And I had a lot of people coming up and complimenting our young people. And again, I just want to say thank you to Ms. Nelson and Mr. Estrada to helping me get that together. I know it wasn't easy because the kids are going 15,000 directions this time of year. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Welch?
Yeah, since our last meeting, I went out to a couple of campuses, Lamar Junior High, and helped greet students with Mr. Telke in the morning. And the other place I went was Williams Elementary, and was glad to be back there. And I want to invite the public to come out on April the 28th. I believe it starts at 4:30. There's an open house, and the Summer Lake subdivision is welcome to come and to meet the teachers and the staff, and to kind of get a feel for the campus to where you've been rezoned to recently. So I just wanted to mention that and make sure everybody knows about that.
Thank you. Mr. Lambert?
Yes. Since the last time we met, I got to visit Williams and Velasquez with Dr. Nivens, and just saw some excellent things there. Walked in on some teachers doing some PLCs, and then just spent some time in an art classroom, seen some awesome instruction. On April the 4th, I got to be at the CTE Career Fair and Expo, so I got to see a bunch of our CTE students come through and got to participate in some mock interviews and interview a few of our students and all that. And then on April 8th, we had lunch with Lambert at 1621, so I got to go out there and just eat pizza with our students out there and hang out in their little student center area and just relax and just chop it up with them.
Lunch with Lambert?
Lunch with Lambert.
Lambert.
It's a thing.
Wow.
That's good.
It's a thing. We can do lunch with Welch. Or-
Lunch
It
with
just
Lambert.
doesn't sound the same.
It doesn't.
Alliteration to it. I like
All
it.
right, we can do it.
Thank you. So a couple things along with Kay's, being at the Words Dinner was really special. I did get to go to the Leadership Day at Hutchinson, and that was really neat, and I could tell all the parents were really impressed with it and happy to be back, and seeing their kids perform, and they did a great job. And the highlight, I would have to say, is walking around with the tallest Easter bunny I have ever seen in my life. Dr. Nivens and I, he donned the Easter bunny outfit, and we went to Smith, Pink, and Jane Long, and it was a special day to get to see all the kids and their faces, and even the teachers. Some of the teachers were more excited and overjoyed, I think. So there was some shock. There was a lot of different things going on there. And some of you even figured out he wasn't the real Easter bunny. So I don't know how they did that, but it was a special day. So that was fun. Dr. Nivens, anything to report?
Yes, ma'am. So along those same lines, yes, I think I was the biggest Easter bunny ever. And one little boy, first grade, looked up at me and said, "You're not the Easter bunny." And then, the Easter bunny doesn't talk, so I just kind of do like this. And he said, "Where's my egg?" I was like, "Man, you kind of rough, man." But we had a great time. That suit, it was hot, but I enjoyed doing it. I enjoyed doing it. I think, but as you know, my highlight of the month was I was able to take my son to college this month and to go look at his dorm room and meet some of his professors. He's gonna start college in the fall, and so we'll be empty nesters. But I was really happy. You know, he's going to my alma mater, and so he's going to Liberty University, and saw some coaches that recruited me out of high school, and some of my old professors, and some of my teammates, and so I think I had a better time than he did. But the great thing I love about it is, you know, just the family atmosphere, and the same thing I love about Lamar CISD is that when I took him up there and I saw two of my teammates I hadn't seen in 25 years, they were like, you know, if your son comes here, he has a place to stay, he has home-cooked meal, and they don't even know him, you know, but it's just that family feel. And I was really appreciative of that because, you know, Virginia's not close to here. And so, you know, it's good that he'll have some people up there that'll look out for him if there's ever a need and urgency. And so it's kind of the same thing we do here in the Lamar CISD. You know, we look out for each other. And so, you know, all the kids that came up just now, we celebrated them and their parents. And, you know, that's why we do what we do. And that's why our sponsors spend so much time, wee hours in the morning, late hours at night, you know, taking kids to and from, coaching them and doing all these things. And so our students can get experiences. And so it's just special. It warms my heart. And I'm just really proud. I'm just really proud. So, yeah.
Could I just say, and because you did that wonderful reception for all the paraprofessionals and teachers of the year of all the schools, and I've heard back, and that's the first time that's ever been done, and I think you're gonna have to do it again, because everyone's gonna be expecting it now. But thank you for doing that. They felt very special.
Thank you. Thank you.
Y'all have already planned to make it an annual thing, I believe, correct? Yes, it's already.
Yes, anytime you have cake and punch, it's going to be annual. It's going to be annual.
All right, thank you. Okay, so at this time, we will take action on the consent agenda and current action items. I will be pulling 9A1, 9A2, and 9A3. So all of the action items I'll be pulling. Are there any other items that the board would like to pull at this time from the consent agenda?
Can I pull 8E?
8E. Anyone else? Mr. Welch, are you considering, or are you?
No, I was
You're
going to
good?
make a comment if we motion and second. I was going to make a comment before we vote.
Got it, okay, so I'll go ahead and move on. Do I have a motion to approve the current consent agenda and action items with the exception of items 8E, 9A, 1, 2, and 3?
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll do it.
Mr. Welch seconds. Any discussion?
Yeah, I wanted to let the public know that I asked some questions behind the scene on 8, let's see, what was it? F on the new bus purchases, and J. And the administration gave me some very thorough answers, so if anybody has any questions on those, come see me.
And I appreciated it that we were all able to see the responses as well, so I like that, so thank you for doing that, yeah. Any other discussion? Okay, I'm calling for the vote. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, none opposed, motion carries. We will now read the resolutions beginning on page 23.
Whereas public school paraprofessionals are valuable members of educational teams in classrooms, gymnasiums, libraries, with special education students and more, and whereas public school paraprofessionals contribute in many ways beyond their most recognizable functions, and whereas the assistance of public school paraprofessionals is particularly important in the daily activities and operations of a school district, and whereas public school paraprofessionals serve our educational community by providing support for students and staff, and whereas public school paraprofessionals assist school and district personnel as trusted communicators with parents and community members, and whereas The connection of public school paraprofessionals to the community aids in communication and positive public relations within the community. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Lamar Consolidated Independent School District declares May 11th, 2022 as Public School Paraprofessionals Day and encourages all members of our staff and community to express appreciation to our public school paraprofessionals.
Thank you.
Whereas school nurses play a critical role in the education process through involvement in the prevention of illness and early detection and correction of health problems. And whereas school nurses must be specially prepared and qualified to practice preventative health measures, assess health conditions, and handle referrals. And whereas school nurses serve the multiple roles of health educator and health counselor to children and families, resource person to classroom teachers and administrators, child advocate in times of crisis, and liaison among home, school, and community. Now therefore let it be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Lamar Consolidated Independent School District declare the week of May 6th through 12th, 2022 as School Nurses Week, and encourages all members of our staff and community to express appreciation to our school nurses. Adopted this 19th day of April 2022.
Thank you.
Whereas today's teachers mold our future citizens through their guidance and education, and whereas today's teachers encounter students of widely differing backgrounds and abilities, and whereas our society expects public education to provide quality education services to all children, no matter what their background or ability, and whereas our country's future depends on the education of our youth received today, and whereas teachers spend countless hours outside their classrooms preparing lessons, evaluating progress, counseling and coaching students, and performing community service. And whereas our community recognizes that its teachers are providing quality educational services to our children. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Lamar Consolidated Independent School District declares the week of May 2nd through the 6th, 2022 as Teacher Appreciation Week, and calls on the community to join with us in the personally expressing appreciation to our teachers for a job well done, adopted this 19th day of April 2022.
Thank you. Okay, so now we will, do I have a motion to consider? So item 8E on page 28. Do I have a motion to consider approval for the design development for elementary school number 33? Mr. Lambert makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I will.
Mr. Welch seconds. Mr. Hunt?
So I just had a question on the design development booklet that we received under separate cover. In the timeline, it stated that I believe substantial completion was expected in either the late summer or early fall of 2024. Is that correct?
That is correct. It's scheduled to be finished completion in June of 2024.
It seems like a longer timeline than we typically do, but I could be wrong on that. Is it usually take 2 years from design development to completion?
No, sir. Some complexity that we have with elementary number 33 is we have two Fort Bend County mobility projects that are adjacent to this project, the widening of Beech Nut and the extension of Peak Road out to 99. So because of those, it's running through the city of Houston. They have approved the plat. Now it's going to Fort Bend County. And there's some drainage issues that we have to work out, combining our elementary school with those two county projects to make sure the drainage is correct.
So right now, what's stalling the process? Is it construction of the drainage issues, or is it getting approval of permits?
So right now it's the plat. Once the plat gets approved and it goes through Fort Bend County and the flood control of them look at everything and see the progress of all three projects combined, that will be the next step. It's supposed to be on the Commissioner's Court coming up because City of Houston has just approved it. Once we get that, that lets us release us to move forward with the project.
Okay, and because this is an area that is in desperate need of a new elementary school, is there anything that we or the community can do in order to speed up the process?
As of right now, we're working very diligently. The county has been very cooperative with us, along with other projects that we have in the district. It's just having to go through the city of Houston. It slowed down it just a little bit, but I think once we get the plat approved, that we'll be able to get back on track and be able to deliver the school on time.
Okay, thank you.
And I was just going to point out, Mr. Hunt, this is, or Dr. Nivens, this is relieving Hubenack and McNeil, is that right?
Yes, sir. It's relieving both of those campuses.
Both of those campuses?
Yes. Adolphus and Hubenack? Okay, Adolphus
Yes,
and Hubenack.
Adolphus.
Adolphus and Hubenack.
Adolphus and Hubenack.
Gotcha.
I just know it's relieving Hubenack, which desperately needs some
Right.
relief.
Hubenack Elementary, yes.
And I know that there's a lot of folks out in that area that know how important this is, and I know just behind the scenes having conversations with folks in the administration that the urgency is there from conversations with everybody from top to bottom. So if anybody in the public is watching that is zoned to one of those schools, I know that those conversations are happening constantly.
So when do you expect, if everything goes according to plan, we can actually break ground? That's when the clock starts ticking.
Yes, ma'am. So one thing that we have, the board has allowed us to go with the construction at manager at risk instead of a CSP. What that allows us to do is we can break up the project. So once the civil site gets done, we can release that as a GMP package 1. So it could be earlier September that we could, or it could be later in the fall. It all depends on the permitting and the plating. And once we get those permits issued, we can start issuing those smaller contracts to be able to get the work started while we're finishing out the rest.
Because typically, how many months does an elementary school take?
14 months.
Any other? Okay, we'll take a vote. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, none opposed, motion carries. Next is item 9A1, action item, which is to consider the approval of names for new elementary schools, middle school number 6, junior high school number 7, and high school number 7.
All right, board, I'll turn over to Ms. Sonia Hamilton.
Good evening. All right, trustees, just a brief, quick overview. Tonight, we are here to share the recommendations for the names of elementary school 32, elementary school 33, elementary school 34, middle school 6, junior high 7, and high school 7. So trustees, earlier in the year, we received about 650 submissions, which equaled about more than 70 names for considerations. You all received the submissions and the names sorted by campus type. You held a public hearing last month where you received community feedback. After considering community feedback, you had an opportunity to narrow down your list of nominees and provide a final ranking. And this evening, we want to present to you the recommendation for the namings of the new campuses. For our elementary school 32, which is going to be located on the south end of Rosenberg off Powerline, Adrian Gray. For elementary school 33, Houston ETJ off Beechnut, Willie Melton. Elementary school 34, located in Fulshire near Jordan Ranch, Miss Viola Randall. And for our middle school, located on the Randall Wright Complex, Mr. James Stebergen. And for the junior high and high school campuses, the locations to be determined. Junior high number 7, Miss Ella Banks. High school number 7, Mr. Gene Tomas. So trustees, the next task is, after board approval of whatever names you recommend, we will contact the families of the namesakes to verify the naming structure. For instance, is it Willie Milton or is it William Milton? And so that'll be something that our team will work on in order to finalize the actual slate of names.
Okay, thank you. So do I have a motion to approve the names for new elementary schools, middle school number 6, junior high number 7, and high school number 7?
Madam President, I move that the Board of Trustees approve the names for elementary school number 32, elementary school number 33, elementary school number 34, middle school number 6, junior high school number 7, high school number 7 as follows. Adrian Gray Elementary School, Willie Melton Elementary School, Viola Randall Elementary School, James Steenbergen Middle School, Ella Banks Junior High School, Honorable Judge R.H. Sandy Bilstein High School.
Okay, do I have a second? Okay, hearing none. Do I have any other motions to be made?
Can I make another motion? Okay. Madam President, I move that the Board of Trustees approve the names for elementary school number 32, elementary school number 33, elementary school number 34, middle school number 6, junior high school number 7, and high school number 7 as recommended by the administration. Adrian Gray Elementary School, Willie Melton Elementary School, Viola Randall Elementary School, James Steenbergen Middle School, Ella Banks Junior High School, and Jean Tomas High School, with the amendment that a school be named for Judge R.H. Sandy Bilstein in the next school naming cycle.
Do I have a second? Sorry. Huh?
Third it.
You can vote for it, okay.
I'll vote for it.
Second is Ms. Danziger. Do I have any discussion?
Are you wanting any particular size campus for that judge's name? An elementary or a high school, or you're not sure?
I would love to see a high school, but I don't know if that's something that we can
Guarantee.
pinpoint at this time. Is that, I don't know.
Can we go back and see what the family nominated him for? I think it was for all
I think he
three.
was nominated for all of them.
He was, I think so too. And should we let it be known, he was the top 7?
Yes, he was number 7 in the list.
that's why we're looking at
I
it.
feel it appropriate that we could go ahead and,
So if we adopt this, we'll take the 6 names the administration put on the screen.
Yes.
Plus, we will be telling a future board, this individual has a
I feel like
school
we
named
would
after.
still be the board at that time,
Yeah.
possibly, probably.
Chances are good.
Chances are good.
And so what I like to do, trustees, is it's kind of the same process, is look through the application and see as far as the impact. You know, we talked about Ms. Randall, you know, she was a mayor in Fulshire, and so it's just fitting that, you know, the school in Fulshire be named after her. So it's kind of taking that same rule of
Yeah.
thumb and seeing where the judge was, and then kind of seeing where the best area is.
He was in the Richmond area. He was a judge, and he was a judge in, Fort Bend County, of course. But yeah, I mean, that's,
He did a lot for the
So I think all that
community.
can definitely be at a later date,
Sure.
but, you know, it's at the board's decision, board's discretion.
Any further discussion, questions? Okay, do I have a motion to, or I'll call for the vote. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye. Okay, none opposed, motion carries. All right. Next item is 9A. Do what? 9A2, discussion and possible approval of procurement method for bus and parent loop at Williams Elementary School.
All right, Mr. Buchanan.
Good evening, Board of Trustees and Dr. Nimitz. Tonight, we bring forth a discussion and possible approval of procurement method for a parent loop at Williams Elementary. On April the 12th, we had a committee get-together, included the principal, police officers, our bond department, along with our maintenance and operations. They looked at the site and the flow of traffic. One of their recommendations coming out was to flip the bus and the parent pickup location. So a traffic study was done in February 2018 when there was over 900 students at that campus. The suggestion of that traffic study at that point in time was to put a parent, to flip the bus and the parent pickup, along with adding a parent loop on the east side of that campus site. Currently, we are in design of that. It's to reduce the stacking by putting this loop and being able to come back in front, pull our stacking off of 762 and Williams Way. Right now, the board has already approved Joyner Architects to do the work at this campus. It already had some work that we were doing there. So they've started the design work based on this. What we're asking to do is use the job order contract as a construction delivery method for this project. It would allow us to be able to get this hopefully done before the first day of school so that we can get this in place to be able to address those issues as they come up. And we will be using the 2017 available savings from that bond to be able to fund this project.
Mr. Buchanan, if you go back to the first slide. So I just want to make sure that I'm sorry, the second one, that it's clear that the traffic study was done in 2018 when the campus had more than 900 students. And so now so that was to be able to get 900 students on and off that campus, in a good amount of time. And so now when they're rezoned, we're projected to have about 700 students on the campus. Is that right? About 700 students. And so this traffic study is still good for that because it's still 200 students fewer. But I definitely want the team to bring this forward to the board because in the grand scheme of things, we had very few concerns about it. But I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew that all concerns were heard, and we want to make sure that we're going to take every effort to make sure we can get parents on and off that campus in a timely manner and safely.
I have a question, Mr. Buchanan. You weren't here at the time, so you might not be able to speak to this. I live very close to this school, and I go up and down Williams Way often to and from 59. My concern is whenever the parent picks up the student at the end of the day, getting back onto Williams Way, outside of going from the campus itself to the road, because they can only turn right there. And not too far away is a railroad track that clogs it up. And the Chief Warren already told me he's talked to the railroad, and there's not much we can do with that situation. So that's still my concern, and I would like to have the engineers who did this talk about that a little bit, and maybe you can speak to it.
So this traffic study was done. What they're doing is right now we are turning this over to the joiner, which has a civil engineer involved in going through this. Right now, Williams Way, when this was done, was not divided. Currently, there's a middle drive that comes out here that allows traffic to go both left and right coming onto Williams Way. It also pulls it enough away from 762. The traffic study was done. The suggestion was to have 68 places for cars to stack coming in front of the campus and to loop around the back. Currently, what we're trying to do is achieve anywhere between 90 to 100 cars to get off of the stacking. Cars will load up next to the building and then loop back around and then come out the middle entrance is what we were looking at. Again, our civil engineer is designing this and looking at the traffic study itself and be able to design the best flow to be able to get parents on and off that site due to the study that was conducted.
Yeah, I don't think there's much else to do. I see what you're saying. It's a very hard road to cross right there.
Yes, sir.
Because there's two lanes coming that direction and all that new houses across the railroad track. And I think it'd be really hard to cross that and turn left, but.
Will they have a safety person out there? Do they have anything right now to help with traffic? A person?
Like a crossing guard?
Crossing guard.
But like a officer kind of thing, you're
Officer
saying?
kind of thing. Because some schools, even though they have that, or is it just if they have to cross a street? Because I know we have some schools that have someone to help direct the traffic, help them get out of the,
I would assume there would have to be a police officer, would it not?
or somebody that would, or maybe a personnel that they would hire from the school.
Yeah, so as architects and the civil engineers go through the design phase of this, we'll have another meeting and conversation and look at that, once it gets closer to determine if that's what we need to do. But we want to make sure, safety is the priority for everyone. So if we need to have an officer out there directing traffic, we can do all those things. Or, we're going to add twice as many kids, so I'm sure we're going to need crossing guards and all those things also.
Because there's a light at the end, right? But not,
Yes, ma'am.
there's a light right there, correct? So that would stack up people trying to turn. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right. Thank you. So, thank you, Mr. Buchanan. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye. Okay, none opposed, motion carries. Okay. So next item is 9A3, which is to consider the approval to direct the superintendent, Dr. Nivens, to create policy for band instrument fees.
All right, board, I have Mr. Estrada up here, who is our Director of Fine Arts. I think, is it Fine Arts, or what is it?
Performing and visual arts.
Performing and Visual Arts. Thank you, sir. Thank you. You know, you always get people's titles right, you know. But anyway, and so this came from a policy committee meeting that's chaired by Mr. Welch. And so to bring this to the entire board, there's conversations that we've had and then consider about moving forward. So, Mr. Estrada, it's your show, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Nivens. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Tonight I have a presentation for you on district musical instrument usage fees. Currently, Lamar CISD does not charge a usage fee. The information provided tonight should hopefully give you some perspective on what surrounding districts are doing with their music programs. Currently, District Policy FB Legal number 8 states that a board may require payment of a reasonable fee not to exceed the actual annual maintenance cost for the use of musical instruments and uniforms owned or rented by a district. I polled some of the area school districts in the greater Houston area to find out what they charge for instrument usage fees. The fees range from $30 in A-Leaf to $100 in Tomball for high school students and in between. This information provided includes any fee waiver protocols that the different districts have adopted. I'm going to pause to allow you a chance to.
Did your thing go out, Mandy? Sorry, just for a second. Her computer went out. I don't know if we need to.
Man's laptop went out.
Okay. I know, I saw you trying to, I assumed you weren't cheating on anything, so. Sorry, Mrs. Estrada. Just 1 second. And I have a better view angled than you do, so you can just use mine if you need to. Oh, all right. And we're back.
In addition, my department is also providing high school band fee information for our 6 high school band programs. These fees are collected from students' parents. They are deposited into the campus activity accounts, and they're used for expenses that cover some of the following: clinician fees, marching technician fees, music and custom music and drill arrangements, design and production of props, and personal apparel. Fees in Lamar CISD band programs are currently capped at $425 per student. I find that our band fees are similar to high school band programs in surrounding districts, and these were the districts that that responded to my quick all-call last week. Fort Bend ISD, they range between $200 to $400. In Katy ISD, they are about $300 with a $750 fee for color guard students. And in Alvin ISD, they range from $150 all the way to $700. On this slide, there's a lot of information on here, so I'd like to just try to cover what you're seeing. This is the musical instrument usage data from Lamar CISD secondary band and orchestra programs. Currently, about 1,400 secondary students are using a district-owned instrument. And it's broken down by band and by orchestra and total. The table also provides possible revenue from fees at a $30 fee, a $60 fee, and a $90 fee, with fee waivers counted. Approximately 50% of our 2,482 secondary band students are using a district-owned instrument right now, and about 33% of our 520 secondary orchestra students are using district-owned instruments. In order to provide an estimate of how many students might apply for a fee waiver, I used the campus free and reduced lunch rate and applied that to the number of students that are using district-owned instruments. So each column on the right, the last 3 columns, suggest what revenue each fee might generate. Without waivers, At a $30 fee, we might generate around $42,000. At $60, we might generate $84,000. And at $90, we might generate around $126,000 in revenue. Now I'll pause for your questions.
Mr. Estrada, the band fee that each student pays, that's one time in their high school career, is that correct?
That's one time per year.
One time per year.
Yes, sir.
So the Foster students are paying $425.
Let me clarify that. A new student who's first year in the band may have a fee that size, but as they graduate, they wouldn't necessarily have to purchase some of the same things like apparel or shoes unless they outgrow them.
So I want to clarify that more, Mr. Welch, because we had that conversation, and so I'm just throwing out numbers that they're not real numbers, but just to get this point across. So we said Foster right now they charge out $425 per student, and so that's a new student, and so the next year if that student decides not to purchase like the shirt or the shoes or like the personal attire, that's a small portion. A student will still pay almost about $350 to $375 per year for the other fees. And so even though it may not be the $425, it's still going to be a large sum of money.
Yeah, thank you for that. I brought this to the administration, or to the district. I think it's, Dr. Nivens said it very articulate a while ago when we were first talking about this. He said, like in the football program, we don't have any of the kids paying for the football uniforms or anything. But in the band program, we have some kids paying and some kids not. And so I don't believe that it is fair to the kids paying that other kids do not. And so that's why I've brought this forth, and I am all about the school district. Any school district is one of the largest taxes that we all pay as U.S. citizens. And I am all for reducing our school taxes as much as possible for us to fund the schools properly. And I think this is an area, in addition to buses, advertising on school buses, which is a different subject. I believe this is a way to save other dollars in the district that could be used either in actual savings or applied somewhere else where there's a need. So I've brought this here, and I think that we should instruct the administration to institute a fee for district-owned instruments.
I have a few questions. One, when a parent does want a child to use a student use one of our instruments, do they sign a contract that if anything happens to that instrument, that they will be responsible for it?
Yes, all of our campuses have some kind of an agreement in place to cover neglect. It doesn't cover the regular wear and tear.
No, I know that.
But for neglectful actions that damage the instrument, that turn it into a high dollar repair, yes, we do hold our parents accountable for that.
Mr. Hunt.
Would you mind going back a few slides? So that's for instruments, correct?
Yes, sir. This is neighboring districts.
So there's two types of fees. There's potentially an instrument fee, and there's a band fee.
Correct.
And right now, LCISD does not have an instrument fee.
Correct.
Okay. But we do have band fees, which have a pretty wide disparity between campuses.
Correct.
And there's just a cap. There's nothing else governing what that fee should be. It's a campus decision. All they can do is they can't go above $425.
That's correct.
And there's a waiver that's possible for students on free and reduced lunch of the band fees, or no?
Well, it isn't necessarily on free and reduced lunch. It's basically by need. In our secondary handbook, we do specify that students that are in need of assistance or a payment plan, the parents just need to communicate that with the band director or the orchestra director on campus. And we never want money to be an obstacle to having a student participate in one of our programs.
So why are some students using a district-owned instrument and some are using their own instrument?
It's, the reasons vary. Some of it is convenience. Some of it is size. A flute can fit in a backpack and can easily fit on a bus. A tuba case, unless you have one at home or you have one that you're playing in class, those can't go into the seat. So some of it's convenience. Some of it is we need to have a balanced instrumentation in order to perform the literature. We can't have a band made up of trumpets and saxophones and drummers. That's not a band. So we have to often entice students into playing the other color instruments that are very necessary for literature to be played, especially at the level 5 high school level.
Would you go forward a few slides where you had what the fees would be with the exemptions? So when you say exemptions, this would be based on need?
Well, that's up to the board. But I used just free and reduced lunch just to give you something to work with.
Okay.
So, Mr. Hunt, so basically, you're right. The exemption would be based on need. And so the exemption would just be a form letter signed by the parent that says, we need some assistance or we're not able to pay it. Then the band director will have the latitude to be able to waive those fees for any student or parent that says they need the ability to do that.
Okay.
And so
just so I understand, I wasn't in the policy committee meetings, but I'm trying to wrap my head around what the goal of this resolution would be. And is the goal we want to get between $21,000 and $64,000 to help take care of the instruments?
In my mind, the goal is to reduce the overall cost that Lamar pays for the district-owned instruments maintenance fee every year. I've used this example ad nauseum. It's the flute family buys their own flute, and the tuba family does not. That is not fair to the flute family, that they're paying for her flute, and the tuba family living right next door, and I'm using an example, a picture in an affluent neighborhood. The tuba family is not paying anything, and that, in my mind, is not fair. Either they should all pay something or nobody should pay anything. So if we're going to reject this tonight, someone to make the motion to give all instruments in the district free, because that would be the logic.
I have two follow-up questions. Are there instruments that are easy to put into a backpack that the district owns and is allowing students to use if they're in need, free of cost?
Yes, we do have those.
Okay. And you also mentioned that there's some instruments that students are less likely, that you need students to play the tuba. Are students that are in needs, are they sometimes this is an option that's available to you? You won't have to pay anything if you'd like to use it?
I can't tell you about any specific examples, but I am aware that often happens.
Okay, thank you.
So, and I was able to sit in, I'm not on that committee, but I did join the meetings. It was an open meetings, anybody was available, just to be clear, was welcome to sit in there. I liked some of the points where, number one, that it is very common that a usage fee is charged because it does get expensive to maintain the instruments. Also that some of the parents were surprised that we didn't charge one because a lot of other people charged them. So it's not uncommon, it's not something, but also for me, the significance also was the buy-in. You treat things better when you have a little stake in it, right? When they take it home and they just if you throw it on the ground, whatever, I didn't have to pay for it anyways, and I don't have to pay for it to break it, that kind of thing. So a small fee that would also, I think we paid $25,000 to dry clean the uniforms, that would offset that whole fee right there. And so we could use that $25,000 where we're dry cleaning on travel or other things. And so I think between the offsetting, it doesn't sound like a huge deal with our multi-million-dollar budget. However, when we are spending $25,000 on one dry cleaning bill, and it would be a healthy buy-in for somebody to take a little more responsibility, I think it's a good idea. So that's my 2 cents.
Would you explain to the board what some of the feelings were by some of the band directors, since they will be responsible for getting these fees taken care of and either adding it to their own fees that they're already collecting?
Yes, I can tell you that the staff is about evenly split. About half are for and half are against. And the reasons vary from, I think they should have buy-in to, I teach in a school that 95% of my band is on school-owned instruments. And so in every opinion in between, really just 50-50.
And to that, they would be able to do the waiver. We would offer that, correct?
That would
At
that
the
would be my
discretion
hope.
of the band director, so
with the
it wouldn't be
waiver, they would have a reduced fee or no fee?
I guess that would be up to the
That
district
was
to
the
decide,
question I had.
correct?
Yeah, that could be up to the district to decide, and so just depending on how the board directs me to move this evening, we will have a conversation more with Mr. Estrada and his team, with Tasby, our policy consultant, and see. But you see also that our policy gives us the ability to do it, so it could be just us creating a regulation, an administrative regulation about these also, and go into more detail. But I would think, just speaking off the top of my head, we would want to give the band directors as much latitude as possible to make sure their bands are sustainable. And so a band director will be able to relieve all fees or some fees, just depending on their conversation with the parents and the students. But let the band director have that last and final say, because he or she needs to be able to have that, because they're going to be the ones having to collect it and dealing with the band every single day.
I don't ever want to have a student that doesn't feel like they can participate because their family can't afford it, or because they don't want to have to ask their family to be financially strapped because they cannot afford it.
And nor do I, and that's
No-
why we
no one in the
proposed, that's why we
policy wanted
proposed
that
the
either.
exemption.
Yeah, that was not the goal, yeah.
And I'll just remind the board, except for Zach, who wasn't here at the time, in late 2019, I brought this issue up, and in early January of 2020, the Fort Bend Herald ran a headline on the discussion. And if I remember the dollar amount right, and this was several years ago, so it's higher now, Lamar CISD was at the time spending, I think it was $198,000 a year just to maintain district-owned instruments. That wasn't to purchase or anything else. So I'm thinking, if we can reduce that by 20,000, 30,000, 50,000, 80,000, that is savings in the tax dollar's pocket. Those are dollars that can go to the dry cleaning. Those can go to other places. Those are significant savings. Again, nobody on the football team is paying, but people in the band, some are paying and some are not.
So then my follow-up to that would be, I don't mean tongue in cheek here, but like, why don't we have how much does it cost to dry clean football uniforms?
I was thinking the same thing. Why isn't the football?
Why are we?
You don't dry clean football
But why aren't
uniforms.
we, why isn't it across?
I
They
mean,
don't need to be starched
there's
and-
maintenance. There's maintenance associated with football.
Yeah, why isn't it across the board that everyone pays or no one pays? It's really.
Well, you don't get to
Very
take home the
interesting.
football uniforms.
Well, I know, but you know what
So
I'm
there's
saying.
there's a difference between them.
But it's like,
Within
we're
the band,
treating
John's saying.
one extracurricular different than we're treating another extracurricular.
Within the band, it's not treated equitable. That's to your point. It's within the band itself. It's not.
No, I hear that. I guess expanding that.
Yes.
Are we treating fine arts
Different than
differently than
sports.
athletics? Because athletics, it costs a lot of money to put on a football game with the lights and the uniforms and all that. And like you said, they don't have to pay a fee. Fine arts program, on the other hand, provides a lot of opportunities, just like sports does, to a lot of students that ordinarily wouldn't have that opportunity. And I know that in recent years, the orchestra program has taken off, and students that, might not be able to afford an instrument. So
I think that's an excellent discussion for you to bring up at another time, because right now, this is the agenda item we're talking about. And that might be worth exploring.
I have a question. Besides the fact that occasionally a band director has said, parents have asked, why don't we have a fee? Has this been a problem that I'm not aware of? I mean, I've never gotten an email or a phone call or something. I mean, I know you've brought it up, Mr. Welch, that you feel like it's not fair, but have other parents felt like, why am I having to buy my child an instrument or buy my child a mouthpiece for this instrument and somebody else doesn't? Has this been something going on that we're just not been aware of? I mean, is this a conversation that we should have had a long time ago, or is this just something we're starting to explore and get kind of traction from?
I am not aware of any, those concerns have not been communicated to me. We have, as a staff, about every 8 years, we'll talk about it, just, you know, just as a review of our practices. But there hasn't been a general push to make it so, and we're actually evenly split.
No, I'm just aware of that some of these other districts that are doing fees, they're recapture districts. So they give a lot of money back to the state. So they kind of want to be able to collect some fees, but we're not that. So everything that we bring in, if I'm right, Ms. Lugwood, we don't send it out, but we don't get anything back. So our tax base is pretty solid, right? Okay. So I worry that this is just the wrong time to start doing it. Maybe we need to look into it more. Maybe we need to have more conversations with parents. I think just coming up all of a sudden and saying, you're gonna have to pay another $60 or $90 or whatever, even if you say you could have a waiver. We all know, just like with free lunch, there's parents that don't participate, not because they can't, they don't want to make themselves visible, or they don't want to go to the band director. And I just worry that we'll lose some kids that really need to be in these programs if we're not listening better and working it better, or at least making sure that when we do it, it's not like we're gonna get more money out of you than we are this other person because of who you are and what you need to do to be in the band. We just have to be very careful how we tread with this.
Mr. Lambert was next.
Thank you. I am on the policy committee, and I sat in, and this was my first round at, policy making and what that looks like, feels like, smells like. And if you can go back to our current fees. So there we go. So a lot of this conversation we're having is like, why are we just now asking for these fees for band instruments when this was a shocker to me whenever I sitting in that meeting, and this is an ops thing, so I'm not gonna dive into that at all. But our students that are in these programs are already paying fees. So it's not like we're asking for, hey, you've never paid a fee already, now we want you to pay. For something just to think about, these students that are already paying are already paying. And if we have that $425 cap fee, then we keep that $425 cap fee, and we could potentially, task Dr. Nivens to saying, okay, how can you, if there was a small fee, keeping it under that $425. And if we're talking about the exemptions and how we don't want a person to not participate because of this, we would have to trust that our admin and our band directors and our orchestra directors and everyone's already doing the due diligence to know who those students are, because students are already paying. So it's not like we're pulling a fee out and saying, okay, we have 0 fees, now we want you to pay something. Those fees already exist, and for me, that was a shocker to me was the vast range from $125 to $425. And that's I can go off on a whole lot of theological and philosophical thing on the differences there, but that's another policy meeting. But just said that our students are already paying. So we're not asking them to not pay or to pay when they're not already paying. So if we can task Dr. Nivens and his team to say, okay, you know what, this is what they're paying, this is what they're used to paying, this is the culture for that school of where they're paying, find a way to maybe bump it up slightly, or at $425, roll this fee in there for those students that are using an instrument.
Zach, let me ask you something. I hear what you're saying. What I think you're missing, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that let's say the Foster High School kid in the 425 in the example. The 425 Foster kid who plays a flute is paying the 425 plus the flute.
No. So it's like we're saying for the apparel, if they don't need that apparel, they don't pay that
They're
portion of the
still
fee.
paying for their own instrument, and the tuba player is not.
That's their choice to buy their own. We're not saying you have to buy your own flute because we have flutes that are available to them. So as a parent, as a person who, everyone knows I do woodwork, if I want to go buy this really intense, awesome tool, I have that choice to do that. I can do the exact same job with a loaned tool that I get from Home Depot, a rental. I can do the exact same job, but my efficiency or my effectiveness and all of that could be different. But like we have these flutes that are available, and then that person in that 425, if that flute person, I mean, if that's what they choose to do to buy their own flute, then the family has that choice to buy their own flute or borrow a flute. I don't see how that's. I mean, we're giving them the choice to do that. They have a choice. I mean, I don't know.
Okay, so I think it's time, oh, no, go ahead.
Is there ever a circumstance where a student would like to use a school-owned instrument and the school says no?
Sometimes. It's based on availability. We never want a student to be deprived of the opportunity. But, if we have it, we do issue it. If we don't have it, we may ask another school, do you have an extra oboe? Do you have an extra French horn? And we'll shift inventory around. Sometimes we just don't have them.
To Ms. Williams' point, and I completely agree with this, that there's more buy-in when you give something towards it. Do any districts in the area or the state, instead of charging a fee, charge a deposit where if you return a banged up trumpet, the deposit's going to go towards repairing it? Do any districts that you know of do that?
I'm sure there are. I'm not aware of those, and none of the large districts in the Houston area that I polled have a protocol like that.
Last question, on the disparity on the band fees. I mean, some of this, like, can you talk a little bit about the reason why there's such a huge disparity in the amount of band fees and where that gets made up? I assume that it costs a similar amount to run a band at each of the high schools. Is there more money that's coming from the district for some schools than others?
Well, the fee range is set by the band director, and the band director at each of those schools has set it at what he thinks his community can afford. So case in point, the two lower schools that have a lower price, I will try to supplement when I have it, when I can, so that all of our students have the opportunity to be successful and have a positive experience, and it has worked. We have a very good band program. It's the flagship fine arts program. It's the oldest, and it's very well supported.
Okay, so we are voting, if we are directing the superintendent, sorry, didn't mean to do that, to create a policy for band instrument fees. So that is what we are voting on. So Dr. Nivens, you and your team would create the actual schedule, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, okay.
If it's a policy, we would create that with our TASB legal consultant along with Ram and his team. They will bring that back to the entire board for final approval. Or we can do it as an admin regulation because our policy kind of already allows us to do it.
Yeah.
So, or we could just create an admin regulation and bring that back as an information item to the trustees. An admin regulation is not approved by the board. An admin regulation is how we implement board policy. So
Okay.
we can do either one, whatever the board desires for us to do.
Because we already have a policy that allows y'all to do that.
Yes, ma'am. Rand, would you go back to that
Yes,
first
sir.
page? First slide, please.
So at this point, the motion is to approve to direct you to create a policy for the instrument fees. So, or to draft a board policy, this is a little different than my story, for the musical instrument fees. So it would be different than this, or you would just fill in the details, just to make sure everybody understands exactly.
Yes, no, it would be, it would just fill in the details on how we're gonna do it.
Okay.
What it would be, how we would do it, how the band directors would collect it, and giving the band directors final authority on tiering that. So if they see a student needs to be waived 100%, they have the authority to do that, 50%, 20%, whatever, and just kind of give them some guidance. So it's not subjective, but, you know, we have some clear-cut policies and rules in place.
So basically, we would be creating a local policy to match the legal?
No, we have a local policy. The admin regulation is not a policy at all. It's just how we implement the local policy.
So we have, this is the legal, but we also have a local that
Yes,
matches
ma'am.
it?
We also have
Okay.
a local policy that matches that.
Okay,
And so the admin regulation is how we implement the local and legal policies.
so that is what is in question tonight, if we want you to move forward with the
Yes.
regulations.
There's two things in question. One is the board can direct me to create a policy, which we have a policy already. The policy will be in more detail,
Okay,
okay? The local policy will be more detailed and talk about the fee structure and all those things. Or, since we have a policy already, we could just create an admin regulation, which will be the same thing, but it won't need board approval. And then what we would do is we will bring them both back to the board. The policy will be for approval, the regulation will be as an information item.
So since it already exists, we're just saying, directing you to implement something.
Yes, so the motion could be either direct the superintendent to create a policy or to create an admin regulation.
To throw that word "shall" in there, right?
The policy or admin regulation, and then they both would be the same. At the end of the day, though, the policy would need board approval, the regulation would not.
so the motion that's open has been made right now is to create a policy
Policy,
for
yes.
band instrument fees.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So that is what we're actually voting on.
Yes.
If that does not get approved, can somebody make the second motion, what you're talking about, to have the administration fees to move that forward?
Yes, ma'am. Administration create an administrative regulation.
Okay, everybody
Yes.
got that?
I have a question for Dr. Nivens. So, as a member of the team of 8, I'd like to hear
Oh, boy.
if you have an opinion on this, and if you don't, if you would need to meet with your team in order to develop the policy further, I understand that. But if you do have an opinion at this point, I'd like to hear it.
Well, in alignment with you all, my opinion is always pro-kid. And so, as long as, I never want anything to be a barrier from a student being connected to their campus. And so whatever that means is whatever that means. I'm good either way. My whole teaching experience, I taught in Sunny South Dallas, and I taught in Oak Cliff in Dallas, Texas, and if you know where those are, you'll know where those are. And I'm sure, none of my kids would have been able to afford even a band fee. None of them. I had to pick up my boys every day and bring them to school and feed them, taking them home. And some boys had to stay with me because their parents were in the house selling drugs and doing other things. So my perspective is a little bit different because I've seen the absolute worst that people can do to kids. And so, I just want to make sure our band directors have the latitude to do what they think is best to serve the students that they serve. That's my full opinion.
Thank you.
Okay, so the first thing, so the motion that is open right now, so do I have even though we already have a local policy.
Did you get a motion already? No. We haven't made a motion even. We didn't even make a motion.
Okay, then there's no motion. I'm glad you said it. It's been a while since you've been up there. Okay, so I'm gonna ask both then, because there's two things on the table then, really.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the first thing I will ask is, do I have a motion to approve directing the superintendent to create a new policy, new local policy for band instrument fees?
I'll make that motion.
So a new one, aside from the current one we have. Okay, do I have a second? Okay, motion does not
You
carry.
could second that too, Joy, if you wanted to.
Well, I got it, thank
Gotcha.
you. Okay, so no. So the next motion is, do I have a motion to approve the administration to create a new administration regulation in concurrence with our current band local policy? Did I say that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do I have a motion for that?
Because my motion to give the power to the board and not the administration fell flat, I will make this motion as well.
Do I have a second? I will second that one.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Question, the administration at any point of its own volition could create an administrative regulation, correct?
Yes, sir.
But that's what we just did. I want the public to understand that, and my fellow board members to understand that. We are ceding power given to the elected board to direct this district, and we're giving it to the administration. And I like Dr. Nivens. I'm one of the ones that wanted him in our district. But we are ceding more and more authority to them, and so at some point, it's like, what's our purpose?
Oh, boy. Barbara, can you read it back?
Which one, though?
The second one that's on the table right now. Yeah, yes, that one.
So the motion, the motion on the table now is to move to ask administration to create an administrative regulation in alignment with FP local.
Doing that, you do not need to bring it back to the board for board approval.
Correct, it wouldn't need board approval, but I would bring it back to the board for information. Yes. Still so the board would see everything that's going on.
And Mr. Welch, we could obviously agree to disagree on this, but I don't view it the same way that you do. I view this as, for me, falls strictly as an operational concern, and we're providing oversight. Obviously, we have a committee that is looking at the process, and we're receiving information, and we're processing it, and we have an administration that we trust, and so we're allowing the administration to perform their operational function while we're providing oversight. And in the instance where we feel like the policy is in need of tweaking, then we can obviously do that. But personally, I don't think that it's necessary or appropriate to direct the administration to start creating operational administrative regulations at this point.
And I'm glad you said that, because Ms. Danziger and I had a similar disagreement in the policy meeting. And we, Alex, you and I just have a completely different philosophical approach to the role of a school board member in the state of Texas. So we agree to disagree.
If I may, the reason that, since we already have, this has gone through several steps. We've gone through several policy committee, anyways. So is that, because I did ask in the policy committee meeting this question, is this something that's operational or governance? And so that's why I am comfortable. I feel like we are saying we would like to put our local policy into action, but not telling the administration how, not dictating all the steps to that. So that is why I feel comfortable asking them to initiate the policy that we currently have, and don't feel like it's overstepping those boundaries. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's a good point, and I talked about that in the policy committee meeting as well. So this is just saying, we would like to see this, please, at y'all's, whatever your discretion, and however you want to advise the band directors, et cetera. You know the kids, you know who can, who can't. Like I said, I see kids when they have some buy-in. I know myself. When you buy your own car, you sure as heck take a lot better care of it than when somebody gave it to you, right? Whatever it is, be it a small instrument or a car, you're gonna do better. And if your family's involved, it's just taking ownership of something, and I think that gives people a real sense of purpose. And I think that is missing in a lot of areas when people just are handed stuff and they don't know what all goes into it. And so that is why I'm comfortable asking them to put this into place. And so that's my 2 cents. That was more like 5 cents probably, but yeah. So, all right. Any other discussion?
I just want to say again that I never want to have a student feel like they cannot participate in band, theater, any kind of a fine arts activity because they think they can't afford it or they don't want to go to their parent and ask for a fee, because I feel like we're a wealthy district and I feel like asking a student to do that and I just feel like it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
This is a hard vote for me.
Yeah.
Personally.
And seeing that we already pay so much, that's where I was talking to Dr. Nivens about, and I agree. But this legal, it already exists, and so putting it onto them, say, okay, figure out how to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're already paying this, and so, like, yeah, we don't want to put another roadblock. And so I'll publicly say to the community and to everyone, I don't want a fee to get in a way of a student. And being married to a fine arts teacher here in our district, I get to, wife, I love you. I don't want a fee to keep a student from participating. And so, but if they're already paying these fees that are so different, can we make them a little bit more and just find a way to make that work? And that's us saying admin.
And I think that is what they would take when they're creating the
Right,
policy,
right. And so we would say
with that in
that, yes.
mind, yes. And that's how we would, yeah, that is the heart of, I think everybody here, nobody wants somebody not to be able to participate.
Absolutely. That's the reason for a waiver and the discretion of the band director.
Okay, so let's take a vote. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
I'm so confused now.
For them to create the administration regulation based on our current local policy, that they have the ability to create something with the fees. No, to move on the local policy that's already in place. So like to say how much the fees are, and here's if, no, we're not charging a band instrument maintenance fee. This is nothing to do with the uniforms or
Okay,
anything.
so this is to adapt the current process / policy
Yes, that,
in order to possibly adapt or charge a
pretty
usage
much,
fee?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, up to the administration's discretion,
All right.
how they want to make it. We're
And
just,
up-
we're
and
just,
up
Making
to
sure.
the giving the band directors some authority.
that's up to the administration to, they have heard how we all feel about it, right? And that they know, like, they already have that discretion, they already, yes. It's per campus, as we already discussed with Mr. Estrada, wherever he is, I don't see it. Oh, sorry, yes. Correct, did I say anything wrong? Making sure, it's been a long.
No, ma'am, it's correct.
It's been a long agenda item. Okay, so I'm gonna retake the vote if you, okay,
Yes,
so.
please.
All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so 4, 3, all opposed, raise your hand. Okay, so motion carries. Okay, we are done with that one. Okay. Okay, so we should be, sorry, please give me
That's what happens when there's no workshop. goes on.
We did have two policy committee meetings. Okay. We will now have the reports and presentations. Is that right? No, where are we? Oh, okay, yes. Where is it? Oh, yes. Well, it's out of, okay. Got it. I will report on our board member training. Under State Board of Education rule, completing required continuing education each year of service is a basic obligation and expectation of any sitting board member. As board president, I am required to announce the name of each member who, 1, has completed the required continuing education, 2, has exceeded the requiring continuing education, and 3, is deficient in meeting the required continuing education. As board president, I'm pleased to announce that all board members have exceeded the required amount of continuing education. Well done, everyone. Board members' hours are as follows. Ms. Bronzell, 31 and a half hours. Ms. Kay Danziger, 39 and a half hours. Mr. Hubenak, 15 hours. Mr. Hunt, 22 hours. Mr. Lambert, 37 hours. Mr. Welch, 31 hours. Ms. Williams, 20.25 hours. All right. I think that's it. Information items.
All right, board, so we have a couple of information items we want to present. And so one will be first our bond update. And so Mr. Buchanan.
Good evening, Board of Trustees and Dr. Nimitz. Tonight we want to give a brief update on a couple of projects we have with our bond. We had a total of 33 pay apps in the March of 2022 for $3,271,548.78. Bernard Clifton Terrell Elementary, it's in the Candela neighborhood. Right now we have a contract that's mobilized and starting to do the dirt work. We'd like to give a special thanks out to Fort Bend County Engineering and Commissioner Vincent Morales. They were allowed us to be able to start doing the groundwork before we had our plat approved, knowing that everything was good. It was just going through the process. That campus is scheduled to open in August of 2023. George Junior High, we had the forum seating is scheduled to be completed this month. We replaced all the seating inside of that and redone that, and we will possibly bring for your approval next month to close out that project.
Any questions?
Where are we at with the sixth grade campus for Randall Wright?
Right now, we're in the design phase. We had some of that come back, and we'll bring forth the DD possibly in June.
How far did that push us back?
Right now, it's looking like a mid-year opening in January of 2024.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next we have Ms. Cole Hamilton with our campus climate survey results.
Good evening, everyone. So positive school climate is defined as the shared beliefs, values, and attitudes that shape interaction between students, teachers, administration, and sets the parameters of acceptable behaviors and norms for a school. It's an essential component of effective and successful schools. This fall, we launched a study partnered with K-12 Insights to develop a survey which addressed the following topics: academic preparation, student support, family engagement, safety and behavior, operations, overall perceptions of equity, welcoming environments, school leadership, faculty relations, and support. Our campus climate survey asked parents and campus-based staff members as well as students in grades 5 through 12 for feedback on these areas, and the survey was open from November 29th through December 17th this past fall. We had a total of 16,733 stakeholders who participated in the survey regarding campus, climate, and quality. And this evening, I will share data from the survey. Now, this report will summarize survey results and breaks them down by participant groups and campuses. Our campus leaders received their individual reports months ago, and the reports also compared this year's results to the past 2 years. The results, I must say again, reflect a random sampling, therefore should not be generalized, and that they reflect every student or staff member's or parent's opinion of their experience in Lamar CISD. They only represent the opinions of the people who took the survey. So when we look at participation numbers, here's a look at how we've done over the past 3 years. The top line in bold represents this past year. Now, our participation numbers have decreased over time, and we are looking at developing an action plan aimed at improving our participation among students, staff, and parents. In fact, when we presented this data to principals last week, they asked if timing was a factor. If perhaps we offered the survey at a different time, perhaps that would impact the results. This slide shows participation by school level. I thought it was very interesting for you to see where the respondents came from. So I highlighted in yellow the majority. So the majority of our parent responses, those parents fall in the elementary category. They've got elementary students. The majority of our campus-based responses came from elementary staff, and the majority of our student responses came from high school students. So this next chart shows the overall quality by grade. If we were given a school grade A, B, C, D, or F, I want you to look at the blue and the green bars. The green bar represents the grade of an A, and the blue bar represents a grade of a B. So when asked a question, what grade would you give the overall quality of your school, about 82% of participating parents and guardians graded the quality of their school with an A or B. That's the top. The middle bar represents 76% of participating campus-based staff would give their school an A or B, and about 70% of our students would give their school an A or B rating. This same data, looking at it over time, gives you a look at the green bar represents this school year, the blue bar is last school year, and the gold bar represents the 1920 school year. Both of those years, of course, were our COVID years. This bar graph looks at the dimension scores. And so when I mentioned the areas that were rated, in looking at this, you see that our operations garnered 91% positive feedback. And the operations includes like the cleanliness of the campus, the safety of the campus, things of that nature. Academic preparation, family engagement rated in at 81% positive, whereas student support 78%, and safety and behavior came in at about 66% positive. Okay, so let's do a deep dive into what our parent and guardians said. So the general themes that rose to the top in looking at the survey analysis from our parent and guardian fell in these categories. In the general satisfaction category, our participating parents and guardians said they were happy with their student's school and the Lamar CISD school district. The attributes noted included satisfaction with the school district staff. They said we have great staff. They noted great safety measures and a welcoming school environment. In the area of increased communication, our participating parents and guardians expressed the need for improved communication between families and the school district. Participants said there needs to be more communication and increased transparency, specifically as it relates to student learning and academic performance, access to educational support, especially for students with special needs, opportunities for family involvement, and extracurricular schedules. In the area of lack of resources, our participating parents and guardians noted that they were not satisfied with the educational resources currently available to them. They said that students were unable to complete their work due to lack of physical textbooks, required technology such as a tablet or computer, inadequate Wi-Fi, printer access, and paper. Parent guardians also said they were unable to provide adequate support to their students due to these lack of resources. In the area of bullying, our parents and guardians said that bullying is either an issue that their student faces or is an issue that they've heard about other students at the school facing. Parents specifically noted bullying at middle schools. They also said that bullying was due to race. In the category of academic support, our parents and guardians said they wanted their students' school to improve academic support. Suggestions included hiring more teachers, providing more support for students with special needs, providing more hands-on activities, eliminating politics or politicized topics from school curriculums, and more manageable workloads for our students. In the category of overcrowding, Our parents and guardians said they felt that their student school was overcrowded. They said the crowding was a safety and a security concern and negatively impacts the learning environment. They suggested the need to expand the size of schools and hiring more teachers. And finally, our parents noted their issues with transportation. They expressed their frustration with school transportation, specifically noting late bus arrivals and buses that do not show up. The next feedback will come from campus staff, and a lot of their feedback centered on 5 major themes. In the area of support and resources, participating campus-based staff members said they need more support and more resources. They feel overwhelmed and stressed by their workload. They also said they did not feel supported by administration or school leadership. They described issues such as overcrowded classrooms, staffing shortages, lack of support with student discipline, pressure from parents, and a heavy workload. Campus-based staff said they did not have the resource or materials they needed in their classroom to support student learning. They stated there was an unequal distribution of technology, for example, laptops, tablets, or smart boards. They noted paper shortages and a need for greater access to printers as stressors. In the category of general positive feedback, participating campus-based staff members said they felt the school community was great. Specific attributes mentioned a welcoming environment at their campus, hardworking staff and leadership, strong academics, and supportive colleagues. In the category of student behavior, they noted their concern experiences with disruptive and disrespectful students in the class, student tardiness, students skipping class, and the need for social emotional development for our students. In the category of curriculum support, participating campus-based staff members expressed a need for improved remedial curriculums to support learning loss during the pandemic. They said there's also a need for more hands-on learning and that students need a greater variety in electives, co-curricular courses offered such as the arts. And lastly, in the category of infrastructure and facilities, participating campus-based staff members said that our infrastructure and facilities need improvement. They mentioned that campus portables are not suitable work environments and have many issues, such as leaks and mildew. They said the district needs to improve the cleanliness of campuses and to expand school buildings to support our growing student population. And finally, our students, their feedback landed in 6 major categories. Under general positive feedback, the students stated their campus was a good school. They described feeling comfortable at their campus, that school was fun, and they enjoyed events. They specifically mentioned fundraisers and the BMX show. Our students talked about there is a strong sense of belonging at their campus and they generally like their friends, peers, and teachers. However, under student behavior and discipline, our participating students said there were many instances of vaping, drug use, bathroom vandalization, bullying, and discrimination and racism, and they feel like students are not disciplined enough for their actions. In the category of emotional support, participating students described mental health issues they are facing, including stress, depression, personal issues, and feeling overwhelmed with work. They said they felt as if teachers and staff were not understanding of the personal issues that students were facing. In the category of positive teacher feedback, participating students said they have great teachers. They said their teachers provide strong academic instruction, were nice and supportive. And in the category of school lunch, participating students said they were unsatisfied with school lunches and that there is a need for more variety and a higher quality of school lunches. As I shared, trustees, we shared this feedback, this high-level feedback with campus leaders last week. However, they've had the data for a while, and our campus leaders are busy creating action plans in response to the data. In addition, this evening, you'll have a chance to hear from one of my colleagues who will share more district-level plans to respond to some of the data points.
Thank you. Any questions? So I appreciate y'all doing all this work. This is one of the goals that we made as part of Dr. Niven's goals, that we would really use a climate survey. And so I hope that everybody takes it seriously and they actually use it, because I speak to some people sometimes and they don't fill it out. So when you don't fill things out, it's hard for us to know things. And so I hope that people will take the time, because we are going to, as a board, take the time to dive into this further as well. And so I appreciate how the campuses are going to be using it and really make it a helpful tool. Yes. All right, and thank you.
All right, board, next we have a presentation on student accountability and a discipline update. We have Dr. Maxwell coming to the microphone.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Dr. Nivens. Tonight's presentation is an informational item providing an update about student accountability and discipline. But to give you some context and some background, discipline in public schools are governed by Chapter 37 of the Texas Education Code. From the guidance of Chapter 37, all public schools in Texas create a student code of conduct, which in LCISD is presented to the board annually. The student code of conduct is utilized by campus administrators as a guide for assigning the appropriate discipline for student behavior. The student code of conduct can be accessed online via the LCISD student handbook. Now, just as we support students with interventions for academics, we also support students with interventions for behaviors. There are tiers of support, with Tier 1 being universal supports for all, and then more targeted and intensive supports for Tier 2 and Tier 3 behaviors. Tier 1 interventions are conducted in the classroom by teachers. Some examples of Tier 1 interventions include, but are not limited to, rewards for positive behaviors, seating changes, verbal or written correction, lunch or after-school detention. Tier 2 and 3 interventions are conducted by campus administrators, such as principals and assistant principals. Some examples of Tier 2 and 3 interventions include in-school suspension, out-of-school suspension, DAEP placement, or expulsions. Now, for DAEP placements and expulsions, administrators conduct investigations. The administrators have 3 days to conduct the investigation and then hold a conference with the student and the parents to share the decisions. During the investigation, a student may be placed in in-school or out-of-school suspension. Depending on the severity of the behavior and if the student has special needs, there may be emergency placement of a student in a DAP during the investigation process. Now, on this slide, you're going to see discipline data for the past 5 years for Lamar CISD. Blue represents in-school suspensions. Orange represents out-of-school suspensions. Gray represents the number of DAP placements. And yellow represents the number of JJAEP placements or expulsions. The first two data sets of 2017-18, 2018-19 is pre-pandemic. The data in the middle of 1920, 2021 during the pandemic, and if you really look at 2021, that's really when many of our students were receiving education virtually. And then of course we have 21-22. Just to be aware, you probably are aware 21-22 is not over. Those numbers are more likely to go up. There is also, as you can see from you look at pre-pandemic to current year, there has been an increase in the number of ISS placements, but a decrease in OSS placements. And just so you know as well, there was an initiative in the district a few years back to lower the number of OSS to keep students on campus. But I also want you to take a look at, because it's kind of hard to see on that previous slide, the gray, this is our DAP placements. And so, because it was so small, I wanted to blow this up for you and bring your attention, because when we compare 2017-18 to our current year, our DAP placements are up 38%. Now when we start looking at the top reasons for these different disciplines or interventions, here are the top 3 for OSS, ISS, and DAP. For OSS, it's fighting, noncompliance, physical conflict. For ISS, it's skipping class, noncompliance, or fail to follow rules. And for DAP, it's THC, vaping and drugs, assault, and fighting. As you can see, noncompliance shows up in both OSS and ISS, and that really comes down to the campus administrator looking at each student, determining if the interventions have been working, what are some of the outcomes that they want for the student, and so if changing in behavior hasn't occurred, they may go and make a different decision or a different intervention for the student. Now, due to the data, one of the responses, we will be full implementation of a PBIS system district-wide, and that is a positive behavioral intervention and support system. Yet, because of some of the behaviors that happened early in the school year, and based on discipline data analysis, we have decided to pilot some of the PBIS components at 3 of our campuses. The campuses are Randall High School, Wright Junior High, and Arredondo Elementary. Principals at these pilot campuses were tasked with putting together a leadership team of teachers and staff members to be part of the PBIS campus leadership team. Those campus teams are currently meeting bi-weekly. During the first meeting of the PBIS leadership team, the campus teams analyzed their discipline data, and then they were tasked with going back and collecting feedback from each of their colleagues to determine are there other behavior needs that the other colleagues on campus are noticing. During the second team meeting, the team members created behavior expectations for students and also for their staff members. And during the third meeting, the team created action plans to put steps in motion to determine how to attain those expectations. And with such a small amount of time with the remaining school year, they were really laser focused on 1 to 2 areas of discipline for their campus. At the end of the school year, pilot PBIS campuses will analyze their discipline data to determine the success of those action plans. Now, I do want you to be aware there are pockets of PBIS systems throughout the district, but to better prepare our campuses for next year, the district had Region 4 come out and present at the principal meeting, going over the PBIS system during the spring. Throughout the remaining principal meetings, aspects of PBIS have been discussed to be prepared for the implementation of the full system during the next school year. And actually, you can see right here, these are our 3 pilot principals presenting to the other principals about their actions and what they've done for piloting PBIS during this school year. Now, of course, when there's any disciplinary actions, there may be some common questions. One of the questions could be, can a discretionary placement occur for persistent misconduct? The answer to that is yes. If tiered interventions appear to not change behavior, the behavior itself may not warrant a mandatory placement, but if it's persistent, the admins at the campus may decide to have that person or that student placed at ALC. For example, a student is being non-compliant, and they do some interventions with the students to help work the student and try to change behaviors, and it doesn't change, and it becomes persistent, and it causes a disruption to the learning. Then the campus administrator could have the reasoning of changing the intervention, which could be an ALC placement. Another question is, can a student be suspended while waiting for a discipline hearing? Answer is yes to that as well. The student may be suspended while awaiting a discipline hearing, but of course, if the behavior is severe and if the student has special needs, then that student would be placed directly at ALC. Also, a common question, are there consequences for parents? The answer is yes to that as well. If the behavior of the student warrants a charges being filed, then the parent may have to pay fines or court fees. If the behavior occurs on the bus, or if that student is placed in ALC, then the parent has to provide transportation for that student. And of course, if the student is placed in an out-of-school suspension, the parent must then provide childcare for those days. And then I'll take any questions that you may have.
Mr. Roach?
That was very thorough. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Can you give an example maybe of a behavior at a non-PBIS campus and what that would look like at one of the campuses that's been piloted this spring versus a campus that doesn't have that program?
Are you saying a behavior by the faculty or behavior by students?
Behavior by the student. What would, the student does something and how would the one campus, Randall High School, for instance, handle it versus George Ranch High School?
Good question. And so what happens is PBIS is a system. And a system is where the administrators really analyze their data, bring teams together, and they start putting in systems of modeling expectations to students, of ensuring that students understand what those expectations are, sharing them over and over again, and also then reviewing their systems that they already have in place and tightening up and making sure that all adults are doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing, as well as consistency. So here's what I want you to understand. PBIS, there's still consequences for students who misbehave or have some behaviors that are not wanted on campus. That doesn't take away those discipline aspects. It's much more of a system to be proactive, to change the environment of the campus so that adults are where they're supposed to be, so that it minimizes possibilities of student behaviors, as well as teaching students exactly what the expectations are, modeling it through those behaviors. So I know that really doesn't answer your question on that, but PBIS is trying to be much more proactive.
So, Mr. Welch, let me see if I can expand on that. So, PBIS is a framework how the campuses communicate expectations to the students and to the staff. And everybody in the entire campus, they're saying the same thing to every single student. So every single student knows, if I'm tardy the first time, this is what's going to happen. If I'm tardy the second time, this is what's going to happen. I get into a fight, this is what will happen. From in-school suspension, out-of-school suspension, lunch detention. So it's just a framework, and everybody's saying the same thing. And so what the goal is now is that once we pilot that for the 3 campuses, we come back, we listen to their feedback, we roll it out across the district. So now the entire district has the same standard of student expectation. So if a student leaves Arredondo and they go to Williams, same expectation, same language, same vocabulary. So the student doesn't have to go and learn a whole new system. Student knows if I do this, this is what will happen. If I do this that's positive, this is what will happen. And so it's really just providing a framework of expectations so everybody would be clear on what's expected.
The pilot started, I want to say January, February is when we got the teams together and identified the teams, and then it took time to get the meetings to come together on the campuses. And like I said, we were meeting bi-weekly. So the campus teams then had to start collecting the data, reviewing the data, and collecting the feedback from the campus staff, and then the next steps, as you saw, with each of the succession meetings.
So is the goal to roll it out on all campuses next year, or do it slowly, or do more training? Right,
Go ahead.
Well, the goal is to roll it out to all campuses next year.
okay. And train over the summer?
Well, Region 4 has the program they have is where they would be coaching us throughout the next school year, rolling it out to all of our campuses. And so it takes time. It does take time.
Right, and we're a big,
We're a large district.
Mr. Lambert, I believe you have something to say, sir.
Yes. And what I'm about to say, I'm not saying it to the people in this room because the people in this room already get it and understand, and how we want as a district to provide the safest, emotionally, physically, and the most positive, conducive learning environment for our students. So what I'm about to say, I'm going to say it to our community, to our neighbors, our friends, to the parents of our district. This is, so I wrote a statement so I can get all my thoughts out and all that. So, and y'all know me that if there is something, I'm going to write it out so I don't screw it up. So, this is something that is just not an LCISD issue. A quick Google search shows that schools, students, teachers, and parents are in this battle across the nation. This is a topic that I don't take lightly and that I want to invest a lot of effort and time into learning, protecting, and teaching our students and staff and parents. Some very talented and effective educators are leaving the profession due to this topic, and I do not want any of our LCISD family to feel like this. There has been a lot of conversations regarding learning loss, and while this is massive, I also think that our students are suffering from a culture that constantly produces negative emotional health. There is an inability to cope with loss and an overwhelming amount of our neighbors that lack the proper skills and abilities to safely resolve conflicts in a healthy manner. There are behaviors and actions that are currently happening in our schools that are affecting the learning environment, and this is something that we must address. The reason I am saying this is for us all to remember that the stresses that students have at school are often magnified by the stresses that our students are having in their home and personal life. And often those home life struggles are carried into the school environment. This school environment can be one of the only safe places for a student to express their true hurts and emotional woundings. But at times, they lack the ability to do so appropriately. Some of our students are showing really big reactions over really small things. We also know that some of the staff are carrying some of the really heavy situations into their work life, and sometimes, just like our students, they struggle with the ability to cope or turn it off at the door. We're also seeing an uptick in bullying, lack of respect and authority, bullying and lack of respect for authority and rules. Rules are in place to provide structure, to protect, to guide, and to teach. We've got to get to a point where we value this once again. We've got to model respect and rule following in all areas of our lives because we know that little eyes are watching us. I am in no means making excuses for students' misbehavior. In fact, I'm saying that all behaviors could improve, including mine. As a leader in this community, I am asking for our staff to be examples in grace, mercy, respect, responsibility, and caring. I am asking for our students to show up ready and willing to learn, to respond with respect, to put down the phone when a fight happens, and to put a hand out to lift someone up. I am asking parents and adults to show up and volunteer. I am asking parents to partner with our district and to be an equal part of their child's education. We need more people speaking life into our students. You are more responsible for your child's development and learning than the school system. I am asking for parents to take responsibility and accountability for their children's behavior. Having the hard conversations, looking through the phones, calling out misbehavior in a way they feel loved while being corrected. As a dad, I often think that my babies are perfect, but I know that they make poor decisions at times just like I do. I am owning mine and my kids' faults. We have amazing, brilliant, kind, funny, respectful, and caring students who are struggling. We have to stand up for what is right. speak out about true struggles our students are facing, and respond with grace and mercy, but also with justice and fairness, and with accountability. We are literally raising our next world leaders, teachers, chefs, mechanics, doctors, and so many other professions, and we need our students to understand that their behavior they are learning today is a lifelong skill that will carry them for the rest of their life. What did I write there? Let's see our, that's about it, that's it. Yeah, but that's it. So yeah, that's my statement. I'll put it out there, but we've got to do better for our students, and we need our students to do better for themselves.
Thank you, Mr. Lambert. Anything else following that? Oh, Dr. Nevins.
And I'm sorry, I know I don't want to keep going, but, you know, the trustees know, and I think most of my team know, I spent 19 years as a teacher, assistant principal, and principal in schools that were labeled as chronically violent. And so I've seen quite a bit in my time, even kids die on campus. And everything hinges off the campus principal. And so that's why we have high expectations for our principals, but that's why I want us to support them with everything we have. Because you can have a campus in an environment where it is total chaos all around that campus except on that campus. If you have a strong campus principal that is strong in instructional leadership, that has expectations, that builds relationships, and that speaks life into his staff and, you know, her staff, his staff, or their students. And so I lived it and done it. And so when people say, you know, you really support them and, you know, you need to give them what they need, that's because at the end of the day, it hinges on them. And when we talk about student behavior, we're talking about curbing bullying, we're talking about curbing fights and assaults and disrespect. It all comes from that campus principal. And so at the end of the day, you know, it's our job to support them and make sure we have the right one in place. But it's our job to support them and make sure that they are holding everybody accountable, because we're holding them accountable to make sure everybody on that campus is safe. Everybody on that campus is safe. And so I just wanted to put that out there because our principals, they get a lot of pushback, they get a lot of negative feedback, but you know, it's a lot on their shoulders because the expectation is your campus is safe and your kids are learning and your teachers are doing what they need to be doing and you're doing what you need to be doing. And so I just want to make sure that I just said it out loud, that our principals, we have some rock star principals, but it's on their shoulders. So our job is to support them every single step of the way, because at the end of the day, you know, they close the campus, their doors to their campus, and we have to make sure that they have what they need. So.
Thank you, Mr. Maxwell, Dr. Maxwell.
All right, we have Ms. Cole Hamilton, and we are going to talk about the redistricting process requirements for our board members.
Thank you. Okay, so every 10 years after the U.S. Census data is released, school districts that elect by single-member districts are required to determine whether trustee districts have approximately equal populations. In light of the recent U.S. Census numbers that reveal an imbalance in Lamar CISD single-member districts, we're providing you a briefing on the law and the processes governing redistricting. So what you see on the screen right now is state law. If the census data indicates that the population of the most populous district exceeds the population of the least populous district by more than 10%, TEC requires that school boards redistrict by the 90th day before the board's next regular election. The reconfigured trustee districts must be compact and contiguous and as nearly as practical of equal population. So the rest of the state law says that the 2020 census revealed significant growth in one single-member district within Lamar CISD, thus triggering this requirement for us to redistrict. Because we hold our elections the first Saturday in May in odd number years, the date by which we must complete this process is February 5th, 2023. There's a special note that the 2020 census figures were not released to the states until after August 2021 due to COVID, and so it was not possible to redistrict prior to the 2021 election. Trustees, what you see on the screen right now, for reference, this is our current district map. For the people watching and the people listening, I want to clarify that we are not talking about rezoning schools nor moving school district boundaries as it relates to student enrollment during this presentation, but rather we are sharing information relative to the districts that our trustees represent and serve as seen on this map. So back to our state law requirements, no later than the 30th day after the board approves the redistricting plan, the district must also notify the voter registrar of the county in which the area subject to the boundary change is located and provide the voter registrar with a map of an adopted boundary change in a format that is compatible with the mapping format used by the office. So in the realm of federal law, in the past, school boards and other governmental bodies in certain jurisdictions were required to submit their redistricting plans to the U.S. Department of Justice for pre-clearance. We met with our attorneys last week, and they wanted us to be sure to share with you that in 2013, the U.S. Supreme Court issued a decision in Shelby County versus Holder that the pre-clearance requirement of Section 5 of the Voters' Rights Act was unconstitutional. And although pre-clearance is no longer required, Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act remains in full effect and prohibits any voting qualification or prerequisite to voting or standard, practice, or procedure imposed or applied by any state or political subdivision in a manner which results in a denial or abridgment of the right of any citizen of the United States to vote on account of race or color or in contravention of the guarantees set forth in Section 4F2 to members of language minority groups. So neither state nor federal law defines a specific process for developing and ultimately adopting a redistricting plan, but trustees, many, if not most districts and political subdivisions typically hire demographers to assist with this process. Some districts even appoint citizen advisory committees to work with the demographer in developing proposed plans for boards to consider, while others rely on administration to create the potential plans. Now, to promote transparency and community support, the best practice is to post relevant information on the website and conduct town hall meetings to receive constituent input prior to adoption. Some districts conduct one such meeting, while others hold several around the district to encourage participation and input from all affected constituencies. For reference, during the past redistricting cycle, Lamar CISD representatives worked cooperatively with and solicited input from interested representatives from specifically within the district's Hispanic community, in particular, representatives of the Fort Bend County League of United Latin American Citizens, that's LULAC. The district also published an initial proposed map on the website, along with other information about the redistricting process. The district hosted 2 public forums in mid-October, during which the proposed plan was explained and the public was encouraged to provide input. And in consideration of some of the input received at the forum, as well as input from trustees, 3 alternate maps were created. All of the alternate maps were then considered by the board over the course of several public meetings held on October 30th, November 13th, November 15th, all in 2012. The current map was ultimately adopted at the November 15th meeting. So let's talk about board actions. Because there are legal standards that apply to the redistricting process, namely that election districts cannot have the purpose or effect of denying or abridging the right to vote on the basis of race, color, or language group, the board must develop appropriate legally sound guidelines that will be used in drawing the new election districts. These can include maintaining incumbent districts and avoiding splitting communities. For your reference, trustees, a sample resolution, it's called the Lamar CISD Redistricting Criteria Resolution, was included in your board packet and provided for your review. All plans, whether submitted by citizens or the board, as well as plans submitted by the staff, consultants, should conform to the district's adopted criteria. Trustees, this looks a lot like our master plan principles, only this would be for the redistricting process. Now let's talk about timelines. Okay, because there are legal standards that apply to the redistricting process, we must follow the appropriate timelines. The redistricting plan must be approved by the 90th day before the election. The candidate filing deadline is 108 days before the election. As such, the board may wish to consider adopting the plan prior to January 17th, 2023, in order to avoid a candidate applying for a single-member district in which they may not reside once the boundaries change. After receiving and considering input, the board, you may vote on a plan that best serves the district. The resolution adopting the plan should determine how the redistricting process will affect incumbents. And trustees, you also have a sample resolution which provides the language for plan adoption. It also allows for incumbents to complete their term and maintains the current biennial election process, assuming that is your intent. So just to summarize, trustees, what's before you is to determine the redistricting process, to develop appropriate legally sound guidelines that will be used in drawing new election districts, drafting some options, gathering input and feedback, and approving the resolution determining the new districts. As far as our timeline, it's recommended that we adopt our new districts before January 17th, and our actual deadline is February 5th.
I have a question. Is there any reason that we would need to wait until the fall or early next year? Or, I mean, the data's not going to change. Could we do it earlier than that?
Yes.
Yes, actually, I've been in discussions with Clay, our attorney, and they have a division in their law firm that specializes in this, and they suggested that we do it as soon as possible and not wait. And so we're in conversations about a timeline on what that looks like, and actually hiring someone that is here locally in the area, that understands our area, understands this process, that can help kind of be the boots on the ground, help us with the entire process, but while the Morris Law Firm will oversee it and make sure everything is legally sound and done.
Because to file for the next school board election, you said 180 days, and that's probably the second week of May, or so you need to file by early February. I think that doesn't give people a lot of time unless we try to do it before the end of this year.
Yeah, I mean, so that's why we're bringing it forward, is to just kind of get a consensus from the board on how soon they want to move on that. I mean, but this can be something that doesn't take a long time to do this either. This could be something that can be done over a 1 month period. And so,
The reason for this is because our districts are somewhat unbalanced now due to population, correct?
yes, very unbalanced. I believe Mr. Hunt's district may be double the size of
Mine.
Mr. Lambert's?
Yeah, mine. So,
And then I'm next.
that should be fairly easy to redraw then based off of, I mean, we just did a
Demographers.
yes, that, well, okay, I'm sure some of theirs does too. So that could be done fairly quickly.
Yes, sir. This isn't going to be a hard process. It can be an emotional process, but it won't be a hard process.
I don't see any reason to drag it out.
Really, it sounds like it's gonna be the engaging the community is the part when we have those events, that type of thing.
The town halls.
Yeah, like if that would be in the summer, if people would actually be engaged in the summer, if we would have to wait until, like a August, September, October type thing or whatnot. But other than that, it seems like it'd be pretty.
So the process is to develop it, bring it to us to approve to roll it out? Or do we just roll it out and then bring it back for our approval?
No, it'll kind of be like we did with the rezoning, and so just talk about some parameters.
Okay,
And this body is the voting body,
okay.
and so you would set the parameters, and then whoever we brought in to be the facilitator would meet with you, talk to those parameters, and then establish
Okay.
maps,
Okay,
and then take it from there.
okay. So it's kind of a few weeks or months process, so
Right? Yes,
it
ma'am.
should, the sooner than later. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, board, our last item is we're gonna end on some really, really great news. And anytime Ms. Ludwig gets up and talks about our finances, she always comes with good news.
Thank
So,
goodness.
Ms. Ludwig.
Thank goodness. Good evening, Board of Trustees, Dr. Nivens. I have a very brief presentation tonight. As you know, we just sold bonds recently. In February of '22, you all authorized the sale of the second and final installment of our bonds from the 2020 referendum. We sold from Proposition A, $420.2 million in bonds, and that was for school buildings, equipment, renovations and things like that, and then $6.6 million for Proposition D, which was technology bonds. We sold a par amount totaling right under $411 million. The recent sale continued to capture historically low interest rates. The average coupon rate of the bonds issued was a little bit over 4%, and the true interest cost of the new bonds is 3.598%. So that's very close to what we have been achieving with bonds, even with the volatile market we were in. The market was really good to us that day. There were other districts that had bonds before and after us and didn't do as well as we did, so we were very happy about it. So that's all I have, really.
Thank you for the good news. All right. We will now review the future action items. Are there any? Nope. Dr. Nivens. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, ma'am, no, we don't have any.
We don't have any.
We
All
don't have
right,
any
that was
future
easy.
action items. So let's go to future consent.
Done with that. Are there any other items on the future consent agenda that trustees would like to pull for discussion for the, it's going to be the May board meeting? Anyone? Okay. Well, hearing none. It is 8:59 p.m. We are adjourning to closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code Sections 551.071, 551.072, 551.074, and 551.082, the Open Meetings Act, to discuss personnel, land acquisition, or consultation with our attorney. We are now back in open session. It is 9:09, I think. 9:11, this might be slow. 9:11 p.m. We have a quorum with all members present. Are there any motions to be made?
Madam President, I move that the Board of Trustees approve the personnel as presented.
Second? Anyone? Mr. Lambert seconds. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, none opposed, motion carries. Any other motions?
Madam President, I move that the Board of Trustees give notice of proposed termination for good cause for probationary contract employee Amanda Graham.
Do I have a second? Mr. Welch seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries. Any other motions? Mr. Lambert.
Madam President, I move that the Board of Trustees give notice of proposed termination for good cause for term contract employees Aaron Waring and Jennifer Flores.
Do I have a second? Ms. Danziger seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries. Any other motions?
Madam President, I move that the Board of Trustees terminate the term contracts of Fong Nguyen and Melissa Hargrave for the contract abandonment pursuant to Texas Education Code Section 21.211, and that the board find that neither Fong Nguyen nor Melissa Hargrave had good cause for abandoning their contracts.
Do I have a second?
I will.
Mr. Welch seconds. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries. Any other motions?
Madam President, I move that the Board of Trustees non-renew the term contract of teacher Troy Moore at the end of the 2021-2022 contract year.
Do I have a second? Mr. Lambert seconds. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
None opposed, Joe said aye. Motion carries. Are there any future agenda items that need to be added or you'd like to see on the agenda? Are there any upcoming meetings and or events, Ms. Danziger?
Bowie Elementary is celebrating their 60th birthday this Thursday from 5:30 to 7. And so if there's anybody out there that's been part of Bowie, which I was, come and say hello. I know they're going to plan some. Next Thursday, I'm sorry, the 21st. Next Thursday. No, it's this Thursday. It's this Thursday, it's the 21st.
Anything else? Any more lunches with Lambert coming up?
There will be future lunches with Lambert,
Okay.
TBD.
Okay.
You'll see a social media invite for
Okay.
people that are allowed in that school.
Okay, the meeting is adjourned. It is, what time is it? 9:14 PM, thank you.